every single episode is going to be live.
Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down throughout the generations. But what if those legends are true? My job is to travel to these destinations, explore them, and figure out the mystery that lies within. Hey everybody, we are here on a special Monday night for our Behind the Screens Live of Season 8, Episode 2. So I want to thank everyone that's joining us tonight for this special episode. We've had a lot going on at the historic Scott County Jail as well as historic Rugby After Dark. So we had to do the Behind the Screams on a different night because I had 5 investigations over a 3-day period this past week. So we were a little bit out of sorts on Thursday night, but I thought tonight would be the perfect time to analyze last week's episode just on the eve of episode 3, which will be tomorrow night. And then we'll probably do a Behind the Screams on Wednesday night of that episode as well, because I'm going to be traveling to Hopkinsville, Kentucky for the Goblin Con that's going to be coming up this weekend. So I just want to take a few minutes to say hello to everyone that's over here in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining us on this special night. I know it was kind of short notice, but this was going to be the best night to do this. And hey, what a great way to spend a Monday night. So I want to say hello to Nancy Weems. And of course, we've got Mr. Bob Burnell over here. Always good to see you, sir. And I apologize. I'm going to butcher your name. Shada Naglia, maybe. But Zoom kickstands up. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize if I butchered your screen name there. Let's see here. We got Mr. James Brady on here. Hello. And of course, the lovely Miss Kim Brady and Daryl Paulette from Clover Hill Village. I'm so glad to see you all on here. Miss Sonia Thompson from The Walking Dead. And let's see, we got a few other folks on here. So yes, we have a special show tonight, and I have a special guest. So if you will, please help me in welcoming my best friend and special guest here tonight, Miss Tiffany White. Hey. Oh, and she's frozen. I don't know if... Can you hear me, Tiffany? Wow. Okay. I hope that's not me that's frozen. If you guys can see and hear me, can you give me a thumbs up? Because it looks like Tiffany is frozen on us there. This is wild. Wow. Okay, so you can't, okay, thanks guys. So you can see and hear me. Let me pull Tiffany away and then I'll pull her back up. So let's see. Okay, she is gone. We'll see if she can, if she pulls back up here in a second. Okay, yeah, that was pretty wild. I could see her moving around in the background, and then all of a sudden when I pulled her up, bam. Okay, so thank you guys for letting me know that. I don't have internet at my house, so I actually broadcast off of my mobile hotspot. So sometimes you never know if things are a little bit wonky. We'll give Tiffany a few minutes to pop back on. So thank you guys for letting me know that. Hello to Miss Dee Dee. So glad to see you on here. Let me make sure. Yeah, I was looking to see if, looks like she's back up here.
Sorry. I lost all power.
Way to
Like,
make an
who did
entrance.
that? Right?
At
It
least
goes with this week's theme.
At least, right. At least it froze on. You were like sitting there smiling. Every time it freezes on me, I always look like I'm like eyes rolled in the back of my head, mouth wide
Yeah,
open.
that's usually me. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got a nice little shot there. So
You did. You got a nice shot. Everyone was
good.
saying hello over here. I'm gonna pull those up in case you didn't see
Hey,
those.
Daryl. Hi,
Um,
James.
and so
Kim.
so Tiff, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know we have just been
Absolutely.
talking nonstop about this past week's episode.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. A lot
Yeah.
to analyze, talk about. Yeah, it's just a lot there.
Yeah, it's I have so much to say about it and things I don't know that I should say. And it's just
Right.
and so I'm glad you're on here to help keep me in line with that as well.
Well, I mean, I think we can be honest with our opinions and
Mhm.
not be rude or anything like that. I mean, things are what they are.
Yeah.
So and we all have our own opinions on things. So it makes the world go round.
Absolutely. And so I'm really interested to talk to everyone here in the chat room because judging by the names that I'm seeing pop up and the numbers that I'm seeing on the screen, I think a lot of the people that watched last week's episode or this week's no, that's last week. I'm confused on my days. Watched the last
Yeah,
episode.
it's Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's not Thursday. I think that everyone that watched is in the chat room here. So we got a lot to talk about, and so
I'm
I
interested
thought
to see what. Sorry, I'm
no,
interested to see what questions people have and what their opinions are on
yeah.
last week for sure.
So just to kind of break it down a little bit, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to play some of the key elements. Tiffany and I both have gone through. A lot of the time I don't have the opportunity to watch the episode and go through some of the static footage, but I know you've gone through a lot of it. I've gone through a lot of it. We got together and analyzed and went through some of it as well after the episode.
Yeah,
And
did some experiments to try to. Yeah, so
try to
we spent
debunk
a lot of time on this thing.
Yeah. So if you did not get to watch the episode, I was down in Southeast Tennessee. I completely went in cold on this episode. I had not been to the location before. I didn't even know the name of what the business used to be until I got there to the location. I didn't even have the address of the location until the day before when I was going to go. And so, and if any of y'all have watched my shows in the past, going in cold is not something that I typically do because I like to know the history. I like to research. I like to be able to account for my environment and all of that as I'm going in. So this one was a little bit different because of that. It was also a little bit different because we were doing some urbexing beforehand, and really a lot of the episode kind of turned out to be mostly urbex with a little bit of investigating. Because of some things, I don't feel it was a complete investigation. There were some things we didn't get to. We kind of had to cut the investigation short, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the location, once I got down there, I got to meet the owner of the location, and she told me what the name was, said I was able to say where we were, didn't know that we would be able to do that. And we were at the, let's see, it was the Cleveland Metal Foundry is the name that they gave us. And so this facility is one that, and I'm going to show you guys some photos because we took photos beforehand. Actually, let me I'm going to go ahead as we're talking and pull some of those up right there. So this location had closed down in 2001. From what we understand, it was in operation from 1941 up until 2001. And so bear with me 1 second to get this pulled up. And please feel free to add anything, Tiffany, because I'm just going to kind of cycle through some of these pictures. But it was in operation from 1941 to 2001, and it had pretty much been vacant with nobody inside of it other than vagrants, tweakers, and homeless and all that up until earlier this year?
Till 2000, since 2010, so a good 15 years it's been vacant and not patrolled or anything like that. So you can imagine how much
energy and
stuff has went on there.
Yeah.
And it was a cool place. I mean, it really was. I mean, especially for, definitely for urbex, and as a little hazardous for being in the dark investigating, but it was definitely cool to check out. And the history was the history of places is always one of the best things, one of my favorite things. Yeah, and I didn't do any research either, so
no, it was basically, I was like, Tiffany, you want to come with me? And you, as you always are, so cool to just be like, let's do it. And it was literally like hop in the car and we headed on down. And so there wasn't any time to look. Now I think this picture, this was the company showers, wasn't it?
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so as you can see, a lot of this place was an inside and outside investigation. And when you have an inside-outside investigation, it's very hard to control your environment at that point, just for that very reason. I mean, this big room right here, the majority of it was inside, but this butted up to the area where we had one of our most intense experiences, which we'll talk a little bit more about.
It looks closed in, but it's got a lot of open sides to it and veers off to other rooms and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I think it's about a 3-acre lot, the entire lot with multiple buildings. As far as like solid buildings, I think there was probably a total of 3 to 4 solid buildings.
At most.
And all at best. Yeah. The rest was just 3 acres of this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And so this, of course, that was the admin building. We didn't even go in there other than looking in there because that would have been way too hazardous for us at that point.
Yeah. Apparently they cleaned it, but they said that it was covered from one end to the other with raccoon feces. Yeah. And you could still smell it. So we decided that probably wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah. So I know you did a little bit of research. I mean, this was not just a metal foundry. What was it? A soil pulverizer?
Yeah. After the foundry, they listed it as a soil pulverizing place. So it's called Zigzag Soil Pulverizers. It was also known as the Cooperative Foundry, but prior to the name that it had, the
Cleveland Metal Foundry.
Yes. So it actually, the building was actually built a lot earlier than it's a Cleveland Foundry and Manufacturing Company.
Yes.
So that was the big girth of it, but it was actually built in 1800s. The the late 1800s, and it was a cooperative foundry company, and they made different stuff, and then I guess transitioned into the iron and metal side of things.
Yeah, and thank you for your research on that, because and I just wanted to kind of point this out. Those molds over there, those sand molds over there on the left-hand side, you can kind of see on the right. I mean, we had to be very, very careful, so we had to be very strategic on how we were setting up, because the floor there was a lot of holes.
Yeah.
So,
And even what, like that big open room, even trying to walk in it was difficult because it was full of black sand, I guess, where they sandblasted stuff, was our best guess. But I mean, it was feet deep and thick, and there was stuff everywhere. Everything was hazardous. So, there wasn't anywhere that we tried to walk that we didn't about fall over.
no. And I mean, from photos I had seen, so if you go to Cleveland Metal Foundry and follow their Facebook page, you can follow along with the rehab of this facility they've got some pretty grand plans with it. Looks like they have a long way to go, but they've got some pretty grand plans. We talked about that in the video, and some of those were that they were going to have a museum for this, where they had some of the equipment. They were also going to have in that big open area, I think they were going to have booths for an antiques shop. One area was going to have a stage because they envisioned some type of entertainment venue. I think a brewery. They have some pretty grand plans for this.
Grand plans, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be great, but it's going to take a lot to get all that going.
Yeah. And I think they'd even, because of some of the experiences, I think they had talked about maybe having some ghost investigations or tours or such. But again, that's just something we can talk about a little bit more here in this show. So it was definitely interesting. We were there 2 hours before we did the live, got a tour from the owner, and was able to kind of see what the place looked like in the daylight, which was really important, because I'm glad we weren't going into this after dark. Let's see here. Okay. Just kind of looking over here in the comments area. Nancy says a lot to keep up with there. There really was. And again, all of you that watch my show know I like to control for the environment. I like to know who's on the property, the weather, moon phases, any type of atmospheric numbers, and then also, most importantly, my surroundings and who's on the property is something that is really important. And we weren't able to do all of that on this episode. Kim says, I'm glad Tiffany was with you. I was worried for y'all and was glad you weren't alone. Yeah.
Turned out great.
It really did. We were joined by a guy by the name of Chet Guthrie. He was the one who got me in there. Typically, I don't like other people filming and broadcasting when I'm doing my lives, just because, again, a little distracting. Honestly, that was a little unexpected. I wasn't expecting him to stay during the investigation, but but it was good that we weren't alone on that. And let's see here. James says, I did not get to watch the live. Yeah, it was an interesting one. I really enjoyed the location itself. I did really enjoy that. Um,
Yeah.
and Sonia says, I wanted you guys to get the heck out of there. You know, so
Yeah.
and we'll and so I do want to mention. So I want to play. I'm trying to decide if I should play the. I think what I'll do is I think I'll play in the video. Okay, what you all saw. Now we did have static cameras up, and because of the way StreamYard and my phone, with the microphone on my phone, which hopefully that's going to change here very soon, but with my microphone on my phone and on StreamYard, you all don't always get to hear all of the sounds because my phone seems to cancel out. It has like a noise canceling feature that seems to cancel out a lot of the fine sounds. And so I know you all didn't hear exactly what we heard, but I had the static cameras. I had 3 static cameras set up, one set up in the room we were in, one up in the area um, upstairs in that room with all the molds, and then one in the downstairs area with all the grinding machines. And
Yeah.
so we did capture of what we heard in there. So I think I'm missing. Let me see. I think I was missing a couple pictures. Yes, there was a few more pictures. Let me pull that up because I want to show the room that we were in, and that didn't show it on the pictures here. So give me just a second to go through. Whoops. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so let me cycle through these right here. This shows you the outside looking in, and then the room where we actually started the investigation. Now, I do want to point out right here, you can see kind of off to the back. So this is on a corner lot. So there was a, what would you call that? A neighborhood street on the front side?
It wasn't a neighborhood. It was just like
No.
like a street neighborhood.
Yeah,
A street with houses on it. I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at one point in time, they actually had a railroad that connected to this, and so this was just down from the railroad, and then I don't know if I'd even say the street in front was not extremely busy, but the one to the side, it had a decent amount of
side
cars.
street was busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could easily tell between
Yes.
what headlights were,
Yeah.
and there was people living across the street, so they weren't too noisy. They had a dog.
Mm-mm.
He got worked up there for a little bit, but for the most part, car traffic was about the only
Yeah.
noise contamination, and animals,
And
like the dog and stuff.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out too, because I know a couple people said they saw car lights go past and ask if the street. So that's just kind of showing. Now this is a view from outside, the door from outside there. If you can see the lights on the inside, that was the room that we started out in. The room when you walk right into this door was where we had our base camp set up. So this would be standing outside. This was the room that we had our base camp set up in. So it butted up to outside. And then this was the room where we essentially started the investigation. There's a piece of equipment, almost something that had like a conveyor belt type thing. And then this view would be from where I was standing. So I was standing right here. We had a camera sitting on that table that's right there. If you're in this picture, and from my point of view, if you looked to the left, that's where that machine was. And then inside that room was base camp. And then on the outside of that was the outside room there. So just to kind of give you an idea, here's the room Tiffany was talking about that had the sand on the bottom there.
And you can
I
see
mean,
all the debris.
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more than what it looks. So trying to trudge through that deep black sand that's been there for years, and then trying to navigate all that garbage and tree limbs and all that kind of stuff, like, yeah, it was almost impossible.
Yeah, for sure. And so this was what was right behind us in this room that was right here. On the other side of this table was another door. And
that led out to that big room that you
yeah,
just showed.
exactly. So, and then of course there was an upper level that led to the furnace that was here. It was just kind of a neat little furnace.
Directly overhead of us, there was no access to the floor directly over top of us.
Exactly.
There was a hole in the ceiling, but there was no access. So if that was a room or just, maybe attic space or something, we're not sure, but there was no access to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, again, you had a series of connected buildings or structure walls, and just kind of showing there. And I think that's on the outside of that big room, wasn't
Open
it?
area. That is the big open area. If you walk down the boards, and then there's a pole right there, and there's some boards that go to the left. If you hang a left, that goes to the room we were at. So you can see all that's exposed.
Yeah.
So when we walked out there, we could see anybody. Nobody could have had time to get out of sight. It's so big.
Exactly.
Just to make a point. Yeah.
And they did have a fence around the building.
Yeah.
This was the view from the upper floor, and kind of overlooking the big open area and the multiple buildings there that we were going throughout. Now Dee Dee did mention, she did say, let's see here. She says, so this would be better to do as an early morning ghost hunt with some daylight.
Yes. I think that's each person's choice. I mean, I get just as much activity during the day as I do night, so you could totally do it in the morning. But I guess depending on your comfort level and your experience level, you could do it, in the morning if you felt safer, or to where you could see better. I don't think it would matter, but I think it'd just be personal preference, wouldn't you?
I think so. And that's a good point. D-Hoot.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't go anywhere without those, so it gives us a little more behind than we really have. I don't know.
Well, I have to say, because I won't run on one of these investigations, and when what happened, I mean, I literally felt vulnerable, and I actually really felt scared on that one.
I did too, and that's hard to do. Do. I think I left my body, come back, and then levitated a little bit. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, no, I was definitely freaked out. I've 20 plus years, and I've had doors slammed in my faces. Me and Miranda both had a door slammed in our face. I mean, we've heard loud, disembodied voices, and we have seen some of the craziest things that you wouldn't believe unless you were there. You just would not believe it unless you were there to see it for yourself. And this was topped every bit of that. I've never heard anything like that. He's never experienced anything like that. And yeah, I think I died, come back, and levitated, and
I'm
and I was
honestly,
definitely uncomfortable from that point on.
I
I
was
never
too.
settled back down.
I was too. You know, I was a little nervous going in a little bit, knowing the area, being from or living in Cleveland for the time that I did, knowing the area. I was a little uncomfortable in the beginning, not knowing what to expect. I think that's the biggest part is going in
Yeah.
and not knowing. I mean, I didn't know if it would be inside, outside. I didn't know how big the property was. And so I was a little nervous about that. And,
And even though they had fences, they were still having break-ins repeatedly.
Yeah.
That graffiti you've seen in that one room, that Javier, that was recent. She just painted over some graffiti, like a few days before we got there, so it wouldn't show up be on the show. And so even with the fence, we knew there was still the chance of some not so great members of society coming trying to join us. But
yeah. And Bob has a good point.
Anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just kind of looking at the comments here, Bob says you could feel the energy, and you could. Hey, Beth Allen, thank you so much for tuning in here. And he says, way too dark for anyone to be running around without lights. Yeah. And we'll get to that point because we were we tried to.
I have a bad habit of doing that with not using my light.
Yeah. Dee Dee says the energy was different. And hello, Sylvain. Thank you so much for tuning in here. Beth says that is definitely not the most peaceful location. No, not at all.
Sure.
And D Hoot says probably the deterioration around you all added to the tension. I can agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. So what I'm thinking is we go ahead and so again, if you didn't watch the episode, we had a couple dramatic events happen, and so we started out the investigation by doing a Urbex tour. We walked around, we showed you all what it looked like, and I know we saw a couple things when we were reviewing the evidence there or reviewing the video. I'll get to that.
Yeah, we did manage to catch a couple of things.
Yeah.
That I felt were paranormal for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Or unexplained, at least.
Yeah. So I do want to show, because we saw a couple things while we were walking around doing the tour. I'll pull those up here in a few, but I kind of want to go ahead and get to the investigation part. So for the first 45 minutes, we walked around, did the tour, got settled, and Tiffany and I kind of had a plan when we were setting up that we were going to set the stationary cameras up, but we were really going to keep this a very light and bare bones investigation for the very reason that we experienced during the investigation. Yeah. We didn't want to have a lot of equipment just laying out because the weather was a little funky. It did start raining on us as soon as we started the investigation. And we didn't know if we were going to need to pack up and leave in a hurry. So
we didn't want to have to be gathering equipment all over the place because it was easy to get turned around.
It really was. Yeah. It really was. And I do want to pull this up because it's a good point. Trust your gut. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That is 100% true.
Yeah. Speaking to the energy, if I can.
Please.
I had told Miranda that day that I just felt off. Like I don't know. I felt a little funny. I thought maybe it was the weather, and I was, concerned about equipment and, would the weather interrupt us and stuff. So I just kind of passed it off as that. And when you got there, you could feel the energy, and it was more of, it's not negative in the sense of like demonic or anything like that.
No.
It's just a negative, heavy place because it felt like you could tell all the bad things that had ever happened there. And I think that negative things that people do, that negativity attracts negative energy. So, you put positive out, you get positive back. You have this place where all these people have gathered, and I mean, you could tell that it had definitely had some really dark things go down there. And I mean, it almost felt like a dumping ground in a way. I kept saying that. It just felt like that to me. And even Miranda felt like that. It felt like as a woman, there was a lot of a really negative energy just from the human side of things, of everything that had happened there. That was the more feel I got than like tons of spirit energy or anything.
Okay, that was going to be my question to you. So speaking on the energy like that, did you feel that the negative, heavy energy that was there was related to the use of this structure as a business facility, or or as after it closed, just being
I felt like it was after
dilapidated?
it closed. Yeah, being dilapidated, and all the bad things that happened there in the 15-year time span, And then who knows what happened on the land prior to that being built. I mean, we can't go back that far, or couldn't go back that far, but definitely after the place closed. It did seem like a place that would be hard work, and you felt that. It would be, I mean, and an aluminum plant is hot, dirty. It's hard work. So, I mean, you could feel that too, but the negative, bad energy really just came from, I think, the crimes and unsavory things that happened after it got closed down and abandoned.
I agree with that. So I was trying to decide if I was going to play. So because it's a place that had not been investigated before, we did kind of start with some of your basic tools. We didn't want to be overwhelming to the spirits or to anyone that was in there. There were some claims of activity from the owner, as well as from Chet, who's helped the owner out. The owner also said that one of the former employees that used to work at the plant, I think it was an accountant or something of that nature, had said, while this building was in operation, there were some strange things that had happened, and most of it, nothing really was mentioned in particular as far as experiences go, just maybe some photos, some feelings, more personal experiences, I believe.
Yeah, she mentioned photos, and they never really got specific on any of the other things
No.
that I can recall.
No, that's what was a little odd to me. There was no specific claims. Really.
Yeah. Not to that location particular.
Right.
Right. And some people get nervous and they start talking and they want to tell you about things that happened somewhere else in the past or whatever, and that might have got them off track. Instead of telling us the activity that they had there, they were giving us details of activity they had somewhere else, Yeah. And so that was kind of hard to kind of keep everybody on track, like in the present moment. We didn't get a lot of details of, what they actually seen or heard, but there was the implication that they had seen things and heard things, but no detail.
And really, the
at all.
main thing is that the place takes on a whole different feeling after dark, which you and
Yeah.
I both, being,
Most places do.
I was going to say, being associated, you being associated with a location, me being associated with a location, we're in there day and night, and it does have that feeling.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
You know,
some
it just,
places are worse than others.
yeah.
Some places when the lights go out, it gets pretty creepy. And this place, I don't think the energy didn't change for me once it got dark.
No.
So I don't think it was one of those places to me. I didn't feel that.
No, not really. It just had the same all around feeling the whole time for me.
Yeah.
So just look at the comments here, and then we're going to pull up. D Hoot says, I could see how a vulnerability feeling could happen there. Nancy says, agree, Tiffany. And
definitely very vulnerable, very
yeah,
open.
yeah. And Beth says most of the negative is from the years sitting empty, just her thoughts. And let's see. And then, of course, Kim says we had every right to be scared. There was too much unexpected going on.
Yeah. And we don't do good. I mean, you think we would, but we don't do good if the unexpected happens and we feel like we're spiraling out of control. Things are getting out of our control. We have to reset and refocus, and we definitely try to maintain control, but it definitely, that open area definitely, it's hard to control a place like that.
And doing it live even more, just that added
adds
to
a whole
it.
other element.
Yeah. So, all right. So we went in, we had set up 2 flashlights, and we had set up a tripwire on the floor, and I think like 2 cat balls. And so we're asking these questions and I felt like some pretty interesting responses. You guys had given some really good questions. We had really just started with the questions when the first thing happened, the thing that really set things into a downward spiral. And so I want to just go ahead, I think, and play what we're talking about and what everyone saw on the camera. But then I'm going to go and I'm going to play play the static camera so you can hear what we actually heard without my phone doing what it did. So, are you still there, Tiffany, or did you freeze up again? I think Tiffany may have froze up again. But guys, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start it. I know some of you said that this sounded like a sneeze. It was not a sneeze. It was the camera canceling part of it out. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, add it to the stage here, and we're going to watch. And I don't know why there's no. Just a second.
For me for a second
There we go.
while I set these up.
Give me one.
Maybe the tripwire. If you, depending on when you were here, flashlight, you may know what that is, but if you don't, it's like a candle, but it won't hurt you when you touch it. I thought it was 41. Yeah. So I'm not sure. That's a great question, Sonia. I'm gonna probably. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you for subbing. Have a great dinner. And then I do want to pull that comment up. So I'm going to ask, And since Sonia's got it in all caps here. All right. If you were a worker that worked here did you work here during the war? If you worked here during the war, can you touch that little flashlight? I really want to put just a couple more flashlights up too, for yes and no questions. Tiffany, would you mind holding this for me for a second?
I'm going to skip
While I
forward
set these
just a
can't
little bit here. Okay, we're going to move a little bit
maybe
forward.
turn it off on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you're going to turn them both on. You turn that on the count of 3. All right. That's cool. Maybe you know the question I'm going to ask. You can turn it off if the answer is no. Is there a worker in this room that was maybe hurt in an accident? Oh. I'm going to ask again. Is there a worker in this room that was hurt in an accident? Oh, tripwire lit up. That was cool. I hope you guys saw that. Okay, so there's someone in here that was hurt in an accident. What are we hearing out there? That was very loud. There's been something moving over there. Okay, if you want to, does anyone need a light to check that out? I'm going to continue to investigate. Okay. Oh, we got a flashlight on right there. So let's see here. Whoa, stuff. Holy.
Okay, so I'll remove that for a second. Now you couldn't hardly hear that where it canceled it out. But all right, guys. So we did catch that on 2 of our other 3 cameras. So I'm going to pull up the first one here, and this is the view from the camera. This is exactly what we heard. Yeah. So, all right, give me 1 second. Sorry, for some reason, when I pulled those pictures up, it pulled it off the screen there. So,
yeah, I lost power again. This place don't want me talking about it.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. All right. So, I don't know why it didn't pull up instantly here. Okay, here we go. Oops. So that's when we heard the sound outside.
Yeah, which was like feet shuffling and stuff kind of moving, but there was nothing out there, just leaves and stuff. There wasn't been nothing to like move around.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm just going to play that again right quick. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It felt like it busted my eardrums. It was so loud.
Yeah.
Literally.
yeah. I mean, I have no explanation for that.
No, no. And that we were standing beside each other. To me, it sounded like it was like somebody popped their face in between the two of us and just screamed. To her, it sounded like it come from behind her. And Chet was standing in front of us, and he felt like it just come from the room, inside the room. But I mean, I've never heard anything so loud and ear piercing in any investigation I've ever done, and never.
No, I
Nothing's been that
mean,
loud.
and
And when you're just sitting there and it's like quiet, nothing's going on, and then that happened, and you could almost feel like a buzz of energy. I will say that I felt there was like energy behind that. Now, was that because I exited my body and come back? I don't know, but there was definitely a lot of energy when that happened. I mean, it changed immediately. But I've never been that scared before, so I don't know if that had anything to do with my feeling like the energy changed. But
well, and that's a good point. That's a good point because we like to do a lot of experiments on the show, and one of the things that I tend to well, you and I both know from seeing other teams investigate and investigating ourselves that the energy you come in with is what you're going to get back. And
Yeah.
so I wonder, I've kind of stopped to think if I had heard this sound at my jail or at rugby, or if you had heard it at Brushy, or if we had heard that sound in a different location other than where we were at, how would that have affected us? I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting a woman or somebody to run through that room.
Yeah, I was waiting on somebody to come like beat our brains out or something.
Yeah.
I think if I had been somewhere like Brushy where I was super, super comfortable, I probably still would have got as weird as freaked out, but I might have had a different energy feeling about it. And I might definitely have went right to a paranormal explanation, just because I know the location so well.
Yeah.
But had it been anywhere else other than somewhere I was super familiar with, first I would have felt, all the things. And then afterward, you're left sitting there going, okay, how do we explain this away? Can we explain this away? And if we can't explain it, does that still make it paranormal? Because I mean, of all the things I've seen, and I've seen some craziness, and a lot of it's been with Miranda, and I mean, but that it just was over the top. And I mean, we've been in some pretty freaky places too. I mean, places where the ground shakes, the floor shakes, doors shut in your face, things get thrown at you. I mean, some really, kind of creepy places. And this just, I mean, I'm like you. I've never been like, I thought I was going to get eat or something. Like, I was like, this is it. I'm dying. This is where I die in Cleveland.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing that's kind of crazy, right? Because I try to go in and I try to look for logical explanations. And so the first thing we did was we went and tried to search. So we looked through the door where I thought it was behind me. And we also looked outside because right after the dog went crazy. The dog was
next across the street. And I don't know, you can hear him barking on the recorder, on the camera.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all could hear it on the live. I can't remember. But I know on the camera we got it.
Yeah. And so clearly the the dog probably heard the scream. Now, the one thing, so I tend to look at, there's five possibilities is what I tend to think. And some of them we were able to debunk. So first, it's like animal.
Yeah.
Was it some type of animal?
That was
No.
pretty easily debunkable. No.
Yeah.
No.
And then real person. On one hand, I lean toward real person, but with all the stuff that was around there, they didn't, and you hear us say it on the live actually, where it's like we saw no lights, we heard no sounds of anyone running, we saw no signs of anyone running, because they would have had to have been right on us
For it to be that loud. Yes.
Yeah. So we saw no signs of that. And I think I made the comment, I said, unless they're still in the building, unless they didn't run and they were still in the building.
Both areas outside of that room were wide open, and we checked them both immediately, and nobody could have ran or got out of the way or hid behind anything as quickly as we, were going through, because I mean, it doesn't look as massive as maybe it did in person, but in person, I mean, this place was massive on the outside of the room. So, I mean, unless they were Sonic the Hedgehog, they're not getting out of our sight, when we come out.
Yeah.
So as far as a person screaming themselves, no, I could eliminate that too.
Yeah. So no animal, probably not somebody who snuck in. I'm a little on the fence on that one. The other would be paranormal. There's the possibility of it being paranormal. And then the other, faked.
Yeah. And I mean, nobody wants to point that finger, but I mean, there was so much going on, we can't rule that out. We don't just look at the evidence too. We look at circumstances, the people that are around us, their reactions, what they say, what they don't say. If we catch them in untruths or things like that, you have to take all those factors into the equation. I mean, we played that scream, and my husband, he said, that sounds like one of those death whistles, those Mayan death whistles, or Aztec death whistles. And I was like, actually it does. But we scoured the internet listening to them. I actually own one. And so we played with that thing for about an hour, standing beside each other. And the way that, if you've never seen one, the way that sound travels and things like that, we could rule that out. It did sound very similar. And at first we were like, maybe, but no. You could, because if somebody was standing that close to us to make it that loud, we would have heard like a more breathy, like you could hear the blowing sound if you were closer to it. And then we actually, she has a structure on her property that is very similar to this building. And so we were actually able to recreate if somebody was to be behind the wall and make that noise with some kind of tool like that. And so we were able to rule that out. But there's, still
I'll tell you what troubles me. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I've looked at all the videos. We had 3 of the cameras there, and it shows up on 2 of the cameras. I do want to play where it shows up on the one upstairs. Let me pull that up. Oh, and of course it goes away. Where I pulled these on and the date's not set on my static cameras, and I download them. It like has a date
now,
of
to be
2021.
clear, while she's looking for that, there were no speakers, no electricity, nothing that we could see visibly set out in the room that could have been set off. So I just want to say that too. So like there was nothing visible that, or nothing that would have had to been plugged in or anything like that anywhere around. So, we could eliminate something like that.
Yeah. That is a good point. Now, this was the camera that was sitting up in that upstairs room. And so this was at the time of the scream. Did y'all hear that? I'm going to play that again.
So you can hear the distance. It's definitely, you can triangulate that it's, coming from that direction. The light y'all are seeing in the back there is a car headlight going by.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Because this is street level. Even though it's on the second floor, it's street level. And so obviously it wasn't as loud. And like Tiffany said, we were able to triangulate. Now, it's troubling to me a little bit that the other camera that we have that would have been at ground level in the grinding room, unless I overlooked it in some way, I have never been able to find the screen pickup there. And I would have thought, because it would be ground level, that would actually have picked up louder. And that upstairs level is directly above the grinding room.
Yeah, and we actually would have to pass the grinding room to get to that upper level. It was actually the next room over. So for that camera to not pick that up, but the other one to pick it up, that is unexplainable, and that falls under paranormal to me. Because explain that. If an audio person can explain that to me, well, great. But we worked all night, all day at her house, never heard a scream on that second camera, never picked it up. And it should have picked it up, and it should have been louder than the third camera. And so it wasn't. So, there's that.
And you could hear, in the room too, on that video that I played, you hear us talking the same way as we're talking on the video. But obviously, these little cameras right here that I had sitting up, they were they're not known for having the clearest audio. Most of them aren't. That's why I set out static recorders with them. But I was not expecting that scream to pick up as clear, when it didn't pick our voices.
But it was so loud in person, and we was like, the cameras had to have picked that up because it was just so loud. And I know the audio's iffy on the lives right now, but that's her internal microphone is omnidirectional, and it tunes out the background noise. So obviously that's something we're trying to work around. But the cameras themselves, he's like, oh, they had to pick it up, and they did. The one in the room, and then that third one, but the one in the middle that should have picked it up louder didn't. So we're back to paranormal again, because it's unexplainable.
So I just wanted to look at the comments here. Daryl says that was crazy, but I had thought the whole time that I had heard a woman screaming. I had earbuds on at the time. Yeah. Daryl, I remember your comments. You did come on and say that. And then Bob said,
a woman.
Yeah, clearly a woman. I wonder if the intent was to scare you two, or was there something else there that scared someone else? See, that's what I'm curious about, because tying it back to paranormal or just interesting at that respect, after we heard after we heard it during the live, and I'll pull that up here in just a few minutes. After we heard it during the live, we looked around on the static cameras. Every time we left the room, the lights went silent. When you see our light shining and coming back into the room, the flashlight starts lighting up. We also had the tripwire hit one time while we were gone. When we came back in, we started getting, it was like the flashlight was pulsating, trying to get our attention. And I started asking questions, like they were trying to tell us something, and asking if there was somebody in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. And we were getting responses, very intelligent responses to that. Now, was it because they were telling us about something that was happening in the moment, or were they trying to tell us about an event that had happened? Is what I wonder.
And so there was only one other woman there, the owner.
Yeah.
And so the scream that we heard, and then the tone and pitch of her voice, I do not see that scream coming from her voice. I can't imagine, that it would have.
No.
This sounded like a younger female, and it did have this painful, not only energy about it, but the scream itself in person when you were experiencing it. It was like she was crying out in pain. It would be like, to me, if you were pushed off a building and you screamed on the way down for your life, and then as soon as you pass, it stops. That mournful end of life scream is what it sounded like to me. And it was so loud.
That's what bothered it. It actually bothered me.
What bothers me. Yeah.
The whole thing bothered me.
Troublesome.
And we were, and that's another thing I do want to mention too, is so when we said at the beginning that there was 3 of us on the property, we thought there was 3 of us on the property.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I definitely want to mention, because after the scream, about 25 minutes to 30 minutes after the scream, the owner and I'm not sure who the guy was. I'm just going to say the owner and her friend or helper or whatever showed up. And so then at that point, that puts 2 more people on the property that we were not aware of being on the property.
Right.
And, and so
while she didn't make that scream herself, did she have an app in her pocket? Some kind of Halloween woman scream thing that's remote controlled in her pocket? Did somebody else have it? I mean, we cannot rule that out. But while we can't rule that out, we also can't rule out paranormal either, because of the anomalies with it, and then just the intense experience. But James, it could have been an actual person manipulating a device. I don't think it was an actual person screaming. If someone tampered and faked that, it would have to have come off of a device or an app or something like that. And Chet was standing in front of us. He never had anything in his hands other than his GoPro camera. Isn't that what it was, like a GoPro? That's all he had. And when they come in 20-25 minutes later, she had her cell phone, and the other guy didn't have, if he had a cell phone, it was in his pocket. So it had to have been something small in their pocket, activated with a remote control. And if it had been them 2, they would have had to have ran as fast as they could have to get out of sight, which we debunked that as well,
because we moved quick. But I have to be transparent on that. because we were not aware. And actually, at one point, you hear on the live, we hear a sound, and it sounded like the gate closing, and I thought they had left. And we even said, I said, what was that? And it was either you or Chet said, I think that's the owners leaving. And so I thought they were completely gone.
That room was unattended. So, you go back, and if you think somebody that wants to try to set something up in a place with no power or whatever to go off, well, we didn't have no plan. We definitely didn't tell them a plan they didn't even know where we were going to set base camp up. So, or what room we were going to do first. So they would have had to have planned really well. So they would have had to have waited and been watching the show to see where we were at to try to avoid us to set it up while we were gone, if they were going to do that. So that would have required a lot of effort, and to be even more transparent, they were, not where they were supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that, they weren't close to us when the scream happened, but they were not isolated either. So, it's feeling wise, it felt paranormal. It felt scary it terrified me, honestly. And then just the feeling that you got with that scream, and then the feeling of the property in general, it just felt like it was natural that you would hear that kind of scream, just not that loud. And so it's hard to sit here and, we don't want to say somebody faked anything, but there's so many, there's just too many circumstances, I think, too many unknowns to classify it 100% paranormal or fake. I just don't think we'll never know. We'll never know.
No. And I just have to say, if it was fake, that's shitty.
Yeah.
If that was fake,
absolutely.
That could have turned into a very, very bad. Yeah, that could have been a very bad situation if that was faked. Yeah. And because first off, I've got so much to say about that, but it could have turned into be a very, very bad situation if that was the case. And I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons why, when it happened, I had some very intense emotions, obviously, when it happened, because, I thought there was somebody coming through that room. And, like I said, I'm trying to
my first thought and feeling was paranormal, because I did feel like something just come right up to me and just popped up and screamed. There was nothing there but a table and a wall, and then her beside me. So for my personal experience, I immediately went to something supernatural. However, after the come down of that, you have to focus and reset and say, okay, that was crazy. That was, we need to make sure there's nobody in the building, because that was almost too good to be
real.
True.
Yeah.
Too real. Yeah.
Yeah. Because how many times did you hear that? Did you hear that? Oh, I heard something. I didn't hear that. The one thing that I can say about it is it happened. Something happened.
It happened, yes. Something happened, and it definitely scared the crap out of us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Now that's what I was gonna say, is because how many times have you heard somebody say, "Oh, we had a paranormal team in, and this real intense thing happened, and then they didn't even finish their investigation. They were out the door." Well, I'll be damned, that wasn't gonna happen with this.
No, we don't run.
No, we don't run.
And a lot of times, really cool, we'll be cheering. We'll be like, "Oh my God, that was so cool!" And everybody else is like, "See ya,"
And I had that for me, I had this the emotion and feeling I had was, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when that scream happened, I'm like you left your body. I saw things flash before my eyes whenever that
Yeah,
happened. And because it's
you
like
definitely
being in
got
a
an
dark
image
room,
with it.
sensory deprived. Yeah, I got an image with that. And and I had this feeling that it's like things are about to be really, really bad. I
I
felt
really did.
vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but my thought was too, it was also just like, okay,
That's too crazy to be real.
yeah,
Once you
yeah.
come down, it was like, okay, that's too crazy. It couldn't have been paranormal. There's no way. Um,
But I
and
don't know.
I don't know if that's us wanting to be in denial because it was so scary in the moment, and probably the most intense thing I've had happen. And so is that my subconscious wanting to go, nope, that
Yeah.
wasn't paranormal. Nope, that wasn't no. So, to help me sleep better at night because I have no explanation for what I heard. It's
I couldn't
and it's
sleep.
unfortunate. It's
Yeah.
we didn't neither one of us slept well, and it's unfortunate that we can't to have such an experience and not be able to eliminate all the possibilities, which is what comes along with doing an outside investigation or having people that, you know, are not where they're supposed to be, or, um, having people wander around or do this or that. It just goes to show how important it is to control your environment as
Right.
much as possible.
That's
Who's
right.
there? Where are they at all times? And what kind of people are you? Are you, you know, uh, investigating with, working with? Um, you can go to motive and things like that. What I seen somebody had a question like, what would be their motive? Would it be to scare
Yeah.
us or to try to scare someone else? To me, I think if there was a motive, it wouldn't have been to scare us. It would have been to show some activity. I think is the
That's what
only
I
motive I
wonder.
could come up with.
Yeah,
Um,
because if they did that just to scare us, again, that's not cool because,
no,
you know, they don't know us.
no.
And I could be a crazy hair trigger and,
Well, that's what I was saying.
yeah.
I could be
And
crazy and not good with a gun, and I could have a hair trigger and shoot anything that moves.
mhm.
you know,
and,
um,
I could have had a heart attack. It could have, sent
yeah,
you into I mean, that is very irresponsible and
yeah, because we
very,
both
very
have health
wrong.
issues,
Yeah.
and so I mean, it definitely could have impacted us and from a health aspect as well. Um, anybody
And for
that's
what?
yeah, and for what,
Because, and that's what a lot of people don't always understand is that it's not about the dramatic experience. It doesn't have to be. You and I both have had dramatic, and a lot of people over here in the chat room have had dramatic experiences when it comes to the paranormal. And it's great when that happens, when the floor shakes, when a picture's thrown off the wall, when a door is slammed in your face. But that's
and
rare that
something
happens.
manifests out of the floor and walks across the room in
Yes.
front of you, 15 people, and everybody's like, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
did you see
We've
that?
seen it. We've seen
Yeah.
it and experienced it, and that's where the experience of doing this comes in, and being able to discern. And so, I think that I just feel like it's a lot of the time it's about the subtle things, and we were getting some really cool subtle things before this happened. And I just wish it could have been a completed investigation because I'm the type of person that, if there is one anomaly that is just kind of makes me go, I throw everything out.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, because
unfortunate.
I mean, at that point, you can't prove either way, and you certainly don't want to speak ill of anyone or accuse them of doing anything and, give anybody a bad reputation, because you definitely can't prove it.
No.
But you can't be normal either, because we can't take out all the possibilities of, and it is unfortunate. I think for me personally, I will take it with me. That's something that's going to stay with me. It's not going to go anywhere. And it will feel, whether it was paranormal or not, it will feel paranormal to me.
Yeah.
And I'll carry that with me. It's definitely not something I'm going to forget. But as far as, official, ruling in or out, I'm with her, that's something that you have to throw out, unfortunately. And it is unfortunate, because if it was paranormal, holy crap,
Yeah.
and, if not, that's just, definitely not cool.
No.
And, I mean, because you don't know who you're investigating with, I mean, and I have investigated with people that if that had happened, we would have had to hogtie them down.
Yeah.
They would have ran and freaked and cried, and I mean, it would have scared them that bad, and not that I'm any better than them, or, maybe I'm just a little I've just heard and seen so much, or I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but everybody has different reactions to things they see. But I know specific people that I've investigated with that, they might have turned around and tried to attack me,
Yeah.
They get so freaked out. And then too, like Chet left the room at one point, after all of this, and I holstered my gun, even though I was calm and, wouldn't have done that if he'd have walked in. I holstered it just in case, like that was everything was so heightened. It's like, okay, let me put this away when we're not all together, because he's liable to come in the door and freak me out. And so,
well, you knew I had you. You knew I had you.
Yeah. She's my bouncer too. So yeah, she's my personal
that has
bouncer.
True story. That has happened
True
on a
story,
couple occasions.
I turned to get the bouncers, and she done bounced him.
That is true.
So yeah,
even the act on the stage, even Maria Brink from In This Moment saw it happen.
Yeah, she like stopped. I turned around. The next thing I know, dude's on the floor, and then she's like, I done took care of it.
Right. I mean, but in all seriousness, it was I'm like you. That's something that I'm going to take with me. And I'm not going to lie, this week, I had 3 tours, flashlight tours in the jail. And I had 3 paranormal investigations that I worked. And the first night when I went upstairs for the first time, and I was standing there, I did not want to have my back to the hall. And it's not because I was afraid something would happen, but I could still hear that scream in my head. And it was so troubling. I was waiting on the people to come up the stairs to the 3rd floor. I had to sort of snap out of it.
Even now I'm getting chills up my back, because it's the same,
Yeah.
I mean, we both were like, no, I'm not going to sit like that. I'm not going to stand over here. Yeah. No, I'm going to turn the light on before I walk in here. I mean, it's definitely stuck with me this week. And things and we've actually had investigations together where we would be talking on the phone, at a 2.5 hours apart, talking about an investigation, and you could feel this entity walk up behind you if you even started talking about it. And I mean, and this was even scary. Like, that was creepy. This is like you're constantly on high alert.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a whole different feeling, because that was creepy, and probably one of the only investigations I've had that just looking through the evidence or discussing the case, the entity would like show itself.
Yeah.
It would show up. And so that was definitely a creepy case. It was an intense case. And
It was a life-changing case.
But yes, it was. But I never walked around, even though that would happen, I never walked around uncomfortable at any point after any experience in that one investigation. But with this one, I've been uncomfortable all week.
Yeah.
With anything goes.
Yeah.
You know, even though I'd seen tons of things, there's no going back from that case. From some of the things we took away from that, there's no. Yeah, it's the before and the after on that case, definitely. And I look at other cases different now, also because of that one case. But this one has just kept me creeped out all week. And I've had horrible dreams, which I have very vivid dreams due to health reasons, and they're usually crazy and stuff. But this week's have been like very vivid nightmares and crazy things. And it's not been a good week.
No, and that's why I say, if that were the case, shame on you.
Yeah, yeah, because if it was paranormal, that says something. And you know, I've been working. Of course, we've been reviewing the evidence and stuff like that, and you got life going on, but definitely going to have to do some soul searching and clearing out to try to get that energy to go away. And you know, if it was paranormal, you know, we definitely need to do that. But like you said, if it wasn't, you know, how dare you? Because I mean, that's and I've seen people fake things and stuff like that, but nothing to the point of that night. That was if it wasn't paranormal.
I mean, that's where I lead to, if it's not paranormal, because we would have seen or heard somebody running away.
Yeah.
We would have seen some kind of signs.
Sure.
And even if they were still in the building, we would have seen some kind of signs. So that's what I'm leaning to. So I'm just going to look back at the comments here. Let's see.
Because the scream itself was just disturbing, and the vision that you got with it was disturbing, and it makes you want to go back and see if that person needs, or that spirit needs help, or, you know, if it's trying to tell you something. Like, you definitely want to go back and, you know, dig into that, because it was so powerful. But, you know,
so
I have a lot to say, but then I'm speechless.
That's me. And you and I were like that the whole time. We kind of talked a little bit on the way home.
But we were
and we were in different places, because you were like, because we needed to get something to eat, and we had a 2.5 hour drive home, and you were like, let's sit down and go eat. And I'm like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
And
I was like, whoa.
I was like, I just want to go home.
And I was like, I just want to get out of this car and get some air. Like, I need to stop and get out is what I need to do. So, and usually we're on the same page about that too. But no, she was ready to go home, and I was ready to get out of the car and just be away from everything for a minute.
And I think my problem was because I didn't feel like, because we had the homeless man come and the owner kept showing up, and I just felt like it was such an incomplete investigation.
So many distractions, so many uncontrollable things. and it could have been a really great investigation. But it also led us to talk about things that we need to do in the future to ensure that that doesn't happen again.
Yes.
But you can't control everything. Even if you're in a home, you can't control everything. Even if you're, if you're in a padded room, there's something that's out of your control. But these big, huge locations like that, what can we do different to ensure that we maintain control and, maintain an environment, a contamination-free environment as much as possible. At least be able to rule out any contamination.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you always have to rule out contamination.
You
always.
You do.
And so you always have to go back. I don't care how much you think it's paranormal. You have to go back and review and rule out. But it's unfortunate when you can't. And that comes down to controlling the environment, and that just doesn't always happen.
Well, and that's part of the reason I wanted to wait on doing the behind the screens and not do it on Wednesday. After knowing I couldn't do it Thursday night, I wanted to go through these cameras and I wanted to do some experiments with you to see if we could at least qualify something.
We talked about that on the way home about, like we need to really, really look into this before we make any comment on what happened, for sure. It's been a long week.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. James says, I have found it is rare for some reason to get an EVP of a disembodied voice. Now I have gotten a couple of those. And now I find that there's times certain things happen and the cameras aren't rolling for that reason. But, I see what you're saying. How about you, Tiffany?
I tend to do pretty good catching EVPs.
But of a disembodied voice.
Yes, even of disembodied voices. And so my experience, I tend to catch a lot of those. But there are definitely quite a few disembodied voices that did not translate to the recorder. And, I've always say that, if you didn't catch it on camera and you didn't catch it on your recorder, then it wasn't meant for the world. It was meant for you.
Right. That's right.
It was meant to be a personal experience.
That's right.
So I truly, truly believe that. And so, while some things are really cool, I wish I'd got it on camera or on recorder. If I don't stress because, it wasn't meant for me to share that other than the people I'm with.
I'm just glad that this other camera picked up the intensity of that scream, because to go back, because we were sitting in the parking lot of the City Cafe there in Cleveland trying to listen to see, because I was like, they didn't hear how loud it was. And I'm like,
And somebody said they thought it was a sneeze. And I could see why you would think that.
Yeah.
And then, like Daryl with his earbuds, he could tell it was a scream. But we were like, we hope the camera caught that, because we'll never be able to explain to anybody how loud that was. And, just how scary it was.
Yeah.
It's like a wild banshee coming in the room and screeching in your ear. I mean, it's just crazy.
And let's see. And Dee Dee says no one was in there except us three. In that room, there was nobody there except us. Like I said, in full transparency, we found out that the owner and her friend was there. And I think that's important to note. So
and they were walking around at the time of the scream, but they weren't near us. So we can say that they weren't completely isolated, but they weren't close enough to have produced that loud of a scream. It just keeps going back to not being able to eliminate every possibility. we could sit here and speculate. And really, I haven't had a lot of, for me personally, I haven't had a lot of experience with places or people faking things. So I also don't feel like I really have a lot of experience enough to comment on that. All I can say is I can rule this out and I can rule this out, and then this
Right.
is what I'm left with.
Right. And that's
'Cause
the beauty of the
a lot of
stuff.
people don't do that
No,
in the
they don't
community.
have to. They don't need
Yeah.
to. And that's the thing that sometimes people don't realize. Is that, again, it's the subtle things. It doesn't have to be. It's like when I've had people send me fake images to analyze photos of, and it's like,
That's the fake stuff you get.
yeah, and it's
Photos.
like, and I'm not talking about just mistaken orbs or anything like that. I'm talking about
Full
people
on fake. Yeah.
that think it has to look like a certain way to be a spirit, and it's like, no. I mean, it really is the subtle things. Bob brings up a good point. Right after the scream, it was dead silent, and you didn't hear
Yes.
any noise or running or shuffling of feet or anything. As close as
That
that
is true.
was, that is absolutely true. Good point, Beth. If someone
That's
did,
our sentiments. Our sentiments.
yes. And I do agree. I think that some of it was supernatural, because I will play here
Yes.
in a few minutes the responses where we were asking, because I think that's kind of cool. And we were having a really cool session before the scream happened. So, and I say,
And we
and I
had,
say that like it's not paranormal, and I don't mean it that way, but
yeah, we would love to tell you that this was 100% paranormal. We ruled it out. But unfortunately we can't. So that's where we're just going to stand. Like, we have our own personal opinions, and everybody else can form their opinion with what facts we put out there for you.
yeah.
And so,
But I
those
do
are the
ask.
facts.
Yeah, but I do ask, when you're forming your opinion, we have had nothing to do with anything like that.
Yes. Yeah. So it
You
definitely, it
know,
wasn't us. It definitely happened to us. So, yeah,
but
just,
Kim is right.
it's what
She
it is.
says that's what sucks, is if it was paranormal, you have no way to prove it because of people showing up out of the blue. I was pissed when they all of a sudden showed up. I personally thought it was completely disrespectful to your investigation. You said
Yeah.
it, I
And
didn't. That's,
unfortunately, that's not the first time
yeah.
that that's happened. I think people who, and maybe that's where we need to be better communicators, instead of just assuming people know better, or, just
Understand.
know in general. Yeah, understand in general. Because there's been a few other times that people just wander through, or, pick up a guitar and start playing it, or, and
Yep.
you're like, what are you doing? Like, like, and then, like, or you'll tell them, like, okay, well, I need there to just be one or two people, and I show up and there's 20 people,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to do an assessment, not even a full-on investigation, just trying to get a feel for the place and see if I hear or feel or see anything. And you're having a party, like it's a party. So people do that, unfortunately. And I think it comes down to communication.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you're
and
right.
you don't want to be
It
disrespectful to them in
exactly.
when somebody lets you in somewhere too. And I know they're
Yeah,
just curious and want to know and stuff. So it's a
exactly.
fine line. And I'm learning a lot as I do these lives for my season, because that does add another complexity level to it, because I like it because it adds transparency, and I
Yes,
like
I like
that.
that. I like the interaction.
Yeah, it's been a growing experience for me because Tiffany can probably be the best person to tell you how much of a perfectionist I am and how much I want things to just be smooth. And this
Coming
is,
into October,
oh,
I just stepped to the background and just let her go. I just let her go. And
yeah.
Miranda
And
will be back after October.
that is true. That is true. And that's the thing. I like it because it is raw. It is there.
Yes.
What happens happens. And so but it does put you in a difficult situation in that, especially when you are live and stuff.
Yeah.
And
And I
so
found this one difficult, period, to film, to light, to it's just like you couldn't get enough light. The you know, everything about this investigation was difficult for me for some reason.
mhm.
I just was not in step.
And that's a good point that James says if your awareness was heightened prior to the scream may lend to it being paranormal. It's true. That's true. Let's see. Uh, I know Nancy. Nancy says, I wish we could have heard so we could help you through it. Um, and hopefully that will change. Um, thank you, Bob. I've got a mic that I'm going to try for tomorrow night that hopefully I'm going to see if my camera will work on that. So, like I said, I appreciate you, Bob, and we're going to see. And tomorrow night's going to be a really cool investigation. It's going to be much, much smaller and much more
Yeah, I'm
intimate.
excited to see it.
This one, I think, just personally, just conjecture, this is going to be, I think, my favorite episode of the season because it's. I'm really looking forward to this one, and it'd be a good thing it's falling right in the middle of the season. Let's see. Daryl says that's why when I have a group at the village, I have to sit and babysit in the parking lot to keep people from slipping in and playing pranks on the investigators. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we are at rugby. We sit at the visitor center and we watch to make sure. The good thing there at rugby being a living village that the villagers are not the ones that do it, but you never know. You do have people staying on site, and there's a lot to control in these investigations. And I
Yeah.
think that's where being an investigator ourselves, Tiffany has experience with that. Myself, I think that's where being an investigator running a location comes
Oh,
in handy very
yeah.
much.
And, I was at a location, with Brushy people. We opened the ghost tours to the public way before they opened the distillery or anything like that. And so we still had people constantly breaking in. And then we would have side by sides, breaking in and riding through the place. And we'd have to chase these people down on all this property and try to find these people and run them out. And, it was a constant thing for quite a few years. And, so I am kind of used to having to, rule out people being broke, someone's broke in or whatever. But the other thing about that is you may think somebody broke in because I have seen spirits in so many different forms, mist to kind of like see through to they look like you and me. And I will follow them. I have followed them thinking they were a person. And then no, they're not. They just disappear. And so they can look like a full on person too. So there are so many, forms that they can take that, you may think someone's broken on you, but that wasn't someone broke in on you. That was a spirit. So there's just a lot there with that. But yeah, I think it does help having, it definitely helps being an investigator, but on the flip side, it helps having run a place too. And, it helps both. it just gives us more. We have a perspective from both ends, and I think that's it's
Absolutely.
good to have a rounded perspective.
Absolutely. And Tiffany, I would definitely encourage you if you're interested, because I know you were talking about your dreams. Dee Dee is amazing when it comes to dream interpretation. And one of the things that she often reaches out to me about or mentions in the lives is asking if anyone has any dreams or anything after this. So I would love if you felt comfortable enough to tell Dee Dee some of your dreams, if you do,
Um.
or at least a part of it.
Uh.
I don't want to
So
put you
it
on the spot or
was.
anything. And if you
Uh.
want to do it at another
Well,
time,
it,
that's fine.
it was very disturbing. The nightmares were. It was the death of someone very close to me. It was a family member, and I have dreamed it all week. And uh, it's I don't want to say who, but I mean, it would be probably the worst thing that I could imagine ever happening. And it's been so disturbing, especially since my dreams are so vivid, because I'll wake up and still be in the dream. And sometimes I'll have to convince myself all day long that I'm not living in that dream state. And so to have that dream several times, I'm like, what is the correlation to that? Um, you know,
Mhm. Yeah. And like I said, you
I
don't
can't
have
find the
to.
correlation, and it could just be my brain's way of processing the feeling of terror, because
Mhm,
that would be the only other thing that would terrify me more.
mhm.
Maybe it's my brain's way of trying to work it out. With my health issue, my brain doesn't process emotions, because you process emotions and store memory when you sleep.
Yeah.
And I have REM sleep disorder. And so I have active, vivid dreams. I don't go through the REM cycle completely. So I'm not always getting to my mind's not always going through the emotions that I've experienced during the day. And it's not retaining things that I remember, but it will continue to try to do that in its own way. So, like I said, it sounded like a death scream. So maybe
Yes.
that's why I was dreaming of death, and it was so scary. The only thing I could dream of was that would be as scary would be the dream that I had.
Mhm.
Um, and I just don't want to put it out, and I don't want to speak it out loud into the universe, but
No.
it's
No.
definitely something that that would be the worst thing ever to happen to me, and so that would be probably the only comparison my brain could drum up, when it's trying to sort this out in my dream state. I think is where I would go with that dream. But it still doesn't make it easier, even though I can logically pick it apart. It does not make it easier to have those every night.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just an example of what we've been talking about with how sometimes this stuff can truly affect you when you go to these locations and you just never know what you're going to experience and how
Yeah.
it's going to affect you when you're there and affect you after the fact.
And I very rarely uh do I have places affect me after the fact. Um, if it's a long investigation, if it's an intense investigation, say we're investigating for months on one place, we're focusing on one place for a long time. Yes, I will have dreams and be really wrapped up in it and stuff like that. But just going somewhere and coming home, I typically don't have, left
Yeah.
residual uh, feelings. I can usually leave it where it's at. As far as emotion wise, I don't, it doesn't give me nightmares and things like that. This one was like she said, it was kind of definitely another one of those before and afters. And I'll always wonder, you know, if it
Yeah.
is, I will always think about it and wonder and wish I had an answer.
Yeah.
And I'll never be comfortable with it because I don't have an answer for sure, 100%. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see.
but
Oh,
I wouldn't mind talking to her in private.
private. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I
but that
meant
is
was,
that's the gist of my dream, though. So take that
okay.
and interpret that. Absolutely.
Let's see. Gosh, we got a lot of comments. Thank you guys so much, because this one is really, I mean, but that's why we do it. This one has really, I don't want to say bothered me, but it's really affected me in the sense that it was so cool and so crazy, but then also
So frustrating and
frustrating.
maddening. And there were so emotions going around.
Yeah.
And we usually do a pretty good job if something weird happens about collecting ourselves and moving forward. And I honestly have to say I'm surprised we were able to recollect ourselves and move forward with this one. Because we both, inside were like, we should just wrap this up now. We were talking later. We both were like,
Yeah.
yeah, we would have been good with like stopping right there, but that's just not our style.
No.
So, we did finally regroup, but then unfortunately, the homeless man came, and he
Yeah.
was talking to himself and running up and down the fence. And even when we left, he was like walking to our
He
car, like
approached
talking
the
to
car.
himself. Yeah, like, and so, that's why we made the decision. Okay, things are getting kind of out of hand again, and we're exhausted mentally, emotionally, and it's just time to call it. And then you got to know when to call it.
Yes.
Once you hit a certain point, everybody has their limit emotionally, mentally, and you should definitely know when to call an investigation.
Mhm.
And I think, I mentioned it, as we was walking around, I was talking to people. I don't know if you could hear me in the live, but no investigation's worth your life or anyone else's. It's not worth your safety. And, if you feel unsafe or, whatever the case, there's no shame in calling it and, cutting bait and walking away. And, I think
Absolutely.
even on the live, I said, like, I'm good with leaving the equipment where it's at and
You did.
calling. And what I mean was like calling the police, let them come sweep this place with their gun,
Yeah.
with their, their tools. Let the experts come clear this place, and then we'll go get our equipment.
You
I would have been
did.
good
You
with that
did.
too. So,
It
like,
I thought we had an interesting rod session. I thought it was a cool idea. One of
yes,
the
that was
after
fun.
we totally after we tried to collect ourselves, we went out and so one of the stories was that a body was rumored to be buried on the property. And so we went and we used the rods. I used the rods on my tour at Rugby to show people how to find unmarked graves. Now, I've had some amazing rod sessions at different places and got some really cool responses. So the rod session itself here was nothing outstanding because, to be honest, as I was walking, I was getting no activity with the rods, or as I was standing
Right.
there asking questions. There was no activity, no spirit response.
I've had better
Uh,
rod sessions.
that's me. Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah, and but then we walked the property, and right when I hit this one spot, just like at Rugby when we're in the cemetery and we cross the graves, the rods crossed. And
Mhm.
now I am in no way saying that this was a body. There was something
Right.
that the rods were hitting on. This was not paranormal. This was the rods doing what the rods do,
Yeah.
detecting something under the surface. And so I wanted to make sure I was clear about that. Is that it could be minerals, it could be just any type of, it could be a dead animal. It could be something buried there, piping, anything, we did not have a water table to be able to see if it was
Right.
water.
And
But
even though it was on a slope, it still could have been a pocket of water somehow. And it could also have been, say someone was murdered there in that spot, it could have been their clothes laying there.
Yeah.
Some of their essence or whatever. So
there was a lot of things.
there's a lot of things that it could have been. But
and what's
in the grand scheme of things, that the parameters that we got and the activity we got is consistent with a body.
It was 7 foot. When we walked in the area, it was 7 foot by 3 foot.
Yeah, so that would be typical of something dead being buried. But doesn't mean that that's what it was. They actually were supposed to dig in that area. They, we marked it. They marked it. Behind
they marked it. Maybe they will.
So I mean, I hope they do, because I was standing there like, who's got a shovel?
Yeah.
And then after the scream, I was sitting there thinking, who's got a shovel and some salt, and we need a lighter, because once we dig it up, we're going to salt and burn it.
Exactly.
I watched too much Supernatural.
Exactly.
but yeah.
Now, I do want to show right quick. I know we've gone a little bit longer than normal, but we got a lot of people watching right now. Are you still good, Tiffany?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's just so much with this. I figured we'd be talking a lot, and I was definitely interested to hear what other people had to say, their opinions, and especially once they heard the scream like we did. And then their opinion on the rod session, because that was interesting as well.
Yeah. I always say it's what you don't get that validates what you do, and the fact that.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
Yeah,
I'll be in touch.
I was going to say I'll facilitate that for you guys, because Dee Dee's fantastic. Yes, so I mean, it's what you don't get that really validates what you do, and in this instance, I feel like the fact that the rods weren't doing anything, and then they hit, and I think I checked myself about 4 or 5 times going around there, and I had you check it too. I mean, there it was hitting on something, and again, we were interrupted at that point, so we didn't get to finish it, and we had the homeless guy and all of that. So to me, it's just like very anticlimactic, because it's like, I was so close, and it was just that's a hard one. That is a hard one, but
all of it was.
Yeah.
Because with the scream, I really wanted to go back and really dig into, like, see if I could validate that as being paranormal just through investigating. But it was so disturbing, I almost didn't want to. But we also, I mean, for the sake of the live, we also did need to move on, because we had other things we wanted to try to do.
I would have stayed.
It's kind of like,
there.
What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And the storms were moving in, so we definitely had to take that into account. If we stay here and keep at this, but we did try to do a few more things after the scream. But after that scream happened, there was the whole room emptied. There was no energy in there. No, we didn't get no more activity. When we tried to get them to turn on the flashlights or light up the
well, I do want to show that
fires
after the scream, just that little session. Let me pull that up. Let me see, I'm at the right part.
So we didn't keep at it, since we weren't getting anything, we went ahead and moved on. Because sometimes when you have a climatic thing like that happen,
I wish you could.
Definitely quietens the activity.
I wish you could feel the energy here. I mean, want not watching. That scream literally sounded like it came from behind that door. Right there. Have you ever heard that scream before around here? There's a siren. Maybe coming to. And so that's one of the facilities that happened maybe when the place was abandoned. Was a woman murdered here after this place was shut down. Dee Dee saw something cross the grid.
And I will apologize
No,
on
nothing
this
else.
grid.
Some of these cameras should have caught that.
In this
scream.
particular room, some of the blackouts I can account for. And
Okay,
then some of them
people
are
are saying
my
it looks
fault
like the grid
because I
blacked
kept
out,
walking in
like
front of the
someone
grid
walked in
light.
front of it.
Some of those were
Yeah,
actually
guys, did you guys hear this?
blackouts.
Yeah.
Just being transparent again. I kept putting my big fat butt in the way of a lot of
Just
stuff.
if you could confirm, did you guys hear that scream?
Now I want to see.
I have never
I don't
heard
think I
anything
went
like
too
that.
far.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's-
Dee Dee did.
I was trying to
it was very.
see,
They had a digital phone. That's what
see right. Let's see. Whoops.
everything, right?
It's just kind of going back before we left. I was wanting to see where we walked back in and
We're at
asked.
9:15. We're gonna try to go to 10. No. Was there any gang activity that happened in here after this place closed down?
Let me just go back. Just.
We heard.
That's where we were walking. We came back in.
We're at 9:15. We're gonna try to go to 10. No. Was there any gang activity that happened in here after this place closed down?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, we did get some EVPs.
We did.
After reviewing this stuff. We did get EVPs. We got what looked like a shadow figure, possibly.
Guys, I wish you could.
I was going to pull that up. Let's see, I was thinking.
I wish you could feel the energy here. I mean, I want not watching. That scream literally sounded like it came from behind that door.
I'll
Right
see if
there.
I can find that part. But one of the things we were asking here was we started asking if there was somebody else in the building. And I thought that was kind of neat that we started getting the lights lighting up there. Do you remember what I remember kind of, I want to go back to where we saw that you pointed it out, the shadow there.
Yeah, it's coming up in this, coming up in this little section.
And we actually slowed this down.
And I went back through my daytime pictures, and in that room, there's nothing there.
Right.
No piece of equipment or anything in that spot right there.
Was it right there?
Yeah. Yep. Go back. And it's just as you pan through. Oh, and then this one, that was a good one.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it and I'm going to slow it all down. I just cut the sound off as we're walking because it's just
Gotcha.
me talking about it. But
But as you cross, see, there's nothing there. But as you cross through, it looks like faces in the window, which could be, you know, could be nothing. There's several things in here that like that we're like, oh, could be, couldn't be. But now the shadow figure, like I said, in my daylight photos, there is nothing in that room that would explain something standing there.
Let's see, is it right on out here? Or did I go too far for the shadow? Because the shadow to me,
you went to the shadows back,
okay.
Back toward the beginning where you started.
It was in, so that was the room. That was the room actually where we were at when we heard the scream. I was standing right over here in front of this door. I will not stand with my back to a door because that is the room we were in. And
the shadow figure we caught during the Urbex walkthrough.
That's what this is. Part. This is the Urbex part.
Okay.
This is 8 minutes and 33 seconds into the video.
Okay, yeah. So it should be.
I should have marked it earlier. I was so busy.
I marked it.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up. 9:59.
Oh, 9:59. Good for you. Right, there's 9:50.
Okay, so when this light pans to the left, right there, go back. Keep going a little bit. There. See?
Right there.
Yeah, there's nothing in there in the daytime to explain that. And I took several still shots, and I mean, it does look like someone standing there with legs and all that.
Oh, there's another on out here.
Yeah, there's another one
that one is the one
comes out from behind the wall.
Comes out from behind the wall.
That one's good.
Now I'm trying to remember the number. And while we're looking for that, I am laughing at this because I thought the same thing. Looks like two people sitting at a table in the background in that one room. Looks like just two people hanging there.
So yeah, when we did the first walkthrough, I turned to take a picture, and I was like,
right there,
there's people sitting at a table over there, and yeah, no.
Yeah.
I was like, I got something already. That's craziness.
But it's lunchtime.
Yeah. Right.
Let's see. Nancy says that she's seen it. Now, so it's on over here. I'm trying to think of the time on the other. I'll know when I see it. Because there's that.
I was lighting up the building for you, and I was behind you with the light. I think it was during the Urbex walk.
And this is still the Urbex walk.
Toward the end of that, maybe a little more toward the end.
I think so. Let's just see where we're going here.
Yeah.
That was right there. It was before it started raining on us.
Yeah, I think it should be coming up after this, if I'm not mistaken. Because this is and like I said before, this is the area they said that a possible body could have been buried, but the whole place did kind of feel like just a dumping ground. And I don't know if that's like a dumping ground for
emotions,
bodies,
trash,
or emotions, and just a dumping ground for just bad behavior in that way. But it just a negative dumping ground of bad things going down.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, And it definitely looked like a place a serial killer could like turn into his killing field.
I think somebody said it best that it was like, this looks like, they said it in the live, this looks like the setting of a horror movie. And
Yes, I
we
see
could have
that.
just,
Yeah.
we could have just totally wrote this as a horror movie with us there investigating and just a real live slasher. Because
Yeah.
I could imagine running and trying to hide here.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide.
No.
And then trying to run. I can't run anyway. And then I mean, I can hardly walk on flat ground. And then trying to get through this, no way. No way.
I mean,
I'd
I
have
would,
just had to give up.
if I was gonna rate this, like I would rate this.
Okay, it's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. But you would rate this?
Oh, I would rate this as a total creep factor 10.
Yes.
Just because, you know, you fear for your own life of real people, paranormal.
So look right here at this door. There's nothing there.
Yeah, there's nothing there. And so
there is a piece of equipment in the back. However, when you see what you see, it's
and
kind
I'm
of
gonna try to
transparent, so you can see through it.
So it's
But
when
you
I
see
pan
it.
on over.
There.
Yeah.
Because you see the piece of equipment, it stays stationary, but something moves from behind the wall.
Yeah.
And it has a transparency to it.
And it's almost
but
like
you see
like a shoulder and an arm.
You see it walk out, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the height of a human, you know, like I mean, it's proportionate and moves like a human would move, but it's see-through.
Yeah. And you see it right when we walk up, it's going to be on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
There.
Right at the doorway entrance.
And I have to slow it down, but I'm going to see if I can stop it. Yeah.
Right there. So
it has to go a little slower, but it's like right there on the right-hand side.
Yeah. You see the piece of equipment in the back. So maybe if you played that at regular speed, now that you've showed where it's at, they can see it move.
I'll try. Dee Dee says she sees it.
So you see the piece of equipment. Yeah, you see the piece of equipment, but something walks. You see it come, and it's so the piece of equipment is way back in the room, but what walks out of the door is right behind the wall.
Yeah.
So the distance between the two is different also. Because at first I thought, okay, maybe it's a blur of that piece of equipment, or you know something like that, but. Trust me, I analyzed. I took screenshots and I played it at every speed possible because I was like, what is that? So it was a good catch for sure.
Well, and I wanted to pull up just a couple of the little videos that we took there, or I mean, that was captured with the camera and, or the static camera. And there was an EVP on one. I did not label it, but let me see which it was. Let me just check. Okay, I think it was this one. Let me just see, but there's a voice. Sorry for the butt shot.
You hear that tapping? We have no idea what that is.
No.
There's nothing in it. So that's great. That means to me.
It's after I leave.
And then something moved in here when but I don't have a lock, so that's why I come out the door. So y'all can come
Oh, yeah.
because it either moved behind me or
I remember that too. It's freaky.
it was kind of hectic. So.
Well, maybe that.
We were still trying to determine, we were still investigating the scream at that point. But yeah, after we had to come back through that room, and I didn't have a light, I had them in front of me so I could see. I needed my hands free. And so they were going ahead of me, but I was already so freaked out. But then there was these heavy footsteps that started like running up toward my back. And I like ran out the door. I was like, shine your light, there's something behind me, it's chasing me. Shine your light so I can shoot it if I need to.
Let me see. It might be this one. So I leave the area and then there is, it almost sounds like a child's voice, but it might be when we were completely gone from the area. So I'm going to play 3 different clips. Let's see what this one is.
And that tapping noise is on the other.
I'm not sure.
Did I just speak over something?
No.
Okay. It was on some of the other cameras too, and it was just, I mean, it sounded like fingers tapping next to the camera. We have no explanation for what that was, because one of the cameras didn't have it, and it wasn't constant.
This one was just constant, rhythmic.
Yeah, but the other camera, it would do it and then do it for a little while and stop, and you would hear it for a while, and then it would start back. So whatever, I don't know what that was. That was odd.
And I've got 2 more, and so one of these I kept on there because I wanted you to be able to see that there was, when we were gone, every time the light would turn on, we were. But I want to see if this is the voice. That was it.
Yep.
Did you hear that? To me, that sounded like a kid. This was right after. So yeah, yeah, that one was not the dog. Um, to me, it sounded like some kind of whole sentence. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then,
Maybe almost like a question. It almost sounded like
Yeah.
a question to me, but
and see, the flashlight was lighting up right when that said that.
mhm.
And then I'm going to pull that back off. And let me see what this last one was. I wish these didn't. For some reason, they the year is showing 2021, and so when I downloaded these and I put them in order of download, it has them in 2021, and it's like, oh, I gotta scroll down.
Yeah. I got a few videos that are a little misdated and mistimed. Also.
Yeah.
So
So see, when we come back in the room, the flashlight turns on, and that's when we started getting those intelligent responses. We did get one hit on the tripwire. It might be on this one. When we were gone, the last light on the tripwire lit up twice while we were there. But the middle one lit up at one point too. So that was the dog barking there.
And we still have stuff to go through and analyze. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the Scream, and then a lot of time watching the video. We didn't spend as much time on EVPs as we normally would have.
No.
So that's something we definitely would want to go back and do, because we did get several, and I heard a disembodied voice as soon as we started the tour that the owner gave. I heard a man speak. So, definitely, we definitely have EVPs throughout the video. Just time to review them.
And that's pretty good going through it in this short period of time with our busy schedules. I'm just going to pull up before, as the last time, I want to play that Scream one more time, just because who doesn't like to evoke fear among themselves just before
Right.
bed? All right. So now that you've kind of seen everywhere we were and get orientation of the land and all that, here you go. Does anyone need a light? Check that out. I want to continue. Walk up. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So. I saw a bunch of different comments about going back and all that. Yeah, it was definitely a perfect Scream, and I mean, you could just hear the emotion and such in it. James says he would like to purchase a copy of that Scream, please. And so, yeah. I mean, it was. I don't know. As we said earlier, it was inconclusive for an investigation for us. I think that I don't know my feelings on going back. On one hand, I I would like to go back, but there would definitely, before I would go back, have to be some parameters in place and
Yeah.
rules on that.
I always want to go back, especially when there's unanswered things or some crazy, thing like that happened. I always have this want and need to go back. But I'm like you, there definitely have to be a lot more parameters and controls put in place to go back and watch the weather, so we could maybe use more equipment to do that, set up more recorders, more cameras, that kind of thing.
On this one, so and I'm gonna put that out there because I debated on whether I was gonna show it or not, but while we're talking, somebody touched something on my camera, my laser grid, in the upstairs area. So if I had it to do again, I would definitely want to have a camera on my camera, because in the upstairs area, so when we went to pack up, the laser grid was actually laying in the floor and not at the base of the stairs. And so you had to go upstairs. There was an entrance on the upper level and there was an entrance on the lower level. And so when we went to pack up, my laser grid was shining down the stairs because it was laying down the stairs. So I picked it up and went upstairs and was like, okay, so something's happened to the laser grid in the middle of the night. So twice on the camera there, the first part, the way I set it up, so I had a laser grid with an extender on it plugged into an external battery, and the way it was sitting on the camera in the laser grid was probably about the size of my finger, but you could see about that much of it on the screen for about just up until just before the scream. And then just before the scream, there's a whisper, and then the laser grid moves. You actually see it because there's this much of it showing on the camera, moves. And it says something, the whisper, when we blew up the audio, says something about touching it. And after that, it sits there, and then it was about I'd have to look. I think it was either 7 minutes or 17 minutes after the scream. You hear doot, 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 like on the stairs, and then bam, laser grid's knocked completely off, out of frame.
And then you hear footsteps back
You
down
hear
the
footsteps
stairs.
going back down.
And then there's another episode of stuff being touched.
Yeah.
With voices. So, I mean, there's so many uncontrolled variables there that make it to where it's, that scream, we can't say one way or the other for sure. I know what I'll take away from it. But unfortunately, it's, I mean, it's real life. It's live and in Technicolor, and that's what happens,
And I agree, Laura. It would be hard to
Yes.
scream in that perfect pitch on cue.
And when you were standing there, it definitely had a change in tone to it also. Like,
Yeah, it did. It did.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. There would need to be things in place. There would need to be, and one episode that I'll be doing this season, if everything works out as planned for my season finale, that will be an outside investigation. And to try to control for that, I will actually have essentially, I don't want to say perimeter guards, but there will be people making sure that there's nothing surround if that ends up going as planned, because that will be an outside investigation. So at least somebody that's keeping an eye to keep people away. So I had to do that on the investigation that I did down there in Cleveland that time. We actually had
The Tall Betsy.
the Tall Betsy
Yeah.
one. Yeah, actually.
Well, I don't think anybody needs to go in that place unsupervised after dark.
No, not when they're finding burnt bodies in cars that with their
beheaded
beheaded.
bodies. And
Yeah, with their skinned because they didn't want to have tattoos identifying the person.
yeah, not a place you want to hang out after
Yeah,
dark.
no, I actually.
But it's really cool. It's a really
It
cool
is
place.
really cool. Yeah, on that one, I actually had a police officer that was on site, making sure that nobody was approaching the cemetery while we did the live. It was kind of wild. And
Yeah.
after that happened, boy, I won't be in that cemetery.
Yeah, because we had been going, and then that happened. We was like, "Oh my Lord, maybe we shouldn't go back there anymore. At least not after dark by ourselves."
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
then that's another story for another time. I think we
Right.
could really do a cautionary tale of compile situations for
Yeah.
a cautionary tale.
The
of
adventures of
Yeah.
Young and White.
Yeah, exactly.
And their cautionary tales.
Exactly. But thank you guys so much for sticking with us. This has been a long live, but we talked about some really important things. If you didn't catch the episode live, it's worth the watch. I think going back watching it, you may see something that we didn't see or hear something that we didn't hear. So it's definitely paranormal or not. There were elements of paranormal, but paranormal or not, it was definitely intense. And
it wasn't a waste.
No. And so it's a lot of fun to investigate that with you guys. We do have a episode coming up tomorrow night. That will be episode 3 of season 8. And like I said, this one, I'm really looking forward to this one. I will go ahead and say that it is a much, much, much smaller location. And I will be able to control my environment 100% because I know that I will either be there 100% by myself, or I may have another person with me. I haven't quite decided yet, but
it's still isolated regardless.
Yes, it is very isolated. So definitely
and protected. So
yeah, definitely be able to control for that. It's going to be a more personal episode. And like I said, on this season, we're going through the life cycle. So we've hit hospital, workplace, and you'll just have to tune in tomorrow night to see what the third is. So, yeah. So again, thank you, everyone. And we will probably do a behind the screens on this coming Wednesday night, because starting on Thursday through Saturday, I'm going to be up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky for the first annual Goblin Con. It's being put on by the town of Hopkinsville. I'll be speaking there, doing a Paranormal 101. I'll have a booth with Ghost Biker merchandise. Just got to do a shameless plug here. New Ghost Biker hoodies. And Yeah, got them in multiple colors. We got red, or not red, but burgundy, green, gray, black. Some of the typical Ghostbacker shirts. We got keychain stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. But I'll have all that at the merchandise booth, and really, really looking forward to experiencing the first annual Goblin Con. So if you're looking for something kind of fun to do, come on up to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and check it out. They've got a lot of great speakers there, and we'll be sharing some of that information out as it gets a little bit closer. So thank you, Tiffany. As always, I enjoy every time that I
Always
get
a
to hang out with
blast.
you. So
Yeah. There's always something crazy every time, but that's why I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, you take care and be sure to tune in tomorrow night, special time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be doing a 2, possibly 3-hour investigation at a really cool location. So, all right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.